This story begins with Josh, his wife Rachel, and their son Max arriving by car at what will be their new home. It's a spacious place surrounded by nature, very different from what they were used to in the city. The family is excited and Max won't stop running around, amazed by the size of the mansion. Rachel takes the chance to start organizing things while Josh gets distracted looking at the garden, imagining how to turn it into a space full of games and comforts. The boy explores the rooms, claiming one for himself, while his parents try to calm down his enthusiasm. The first night in the house reflects the new chapter they're trying to begin. Max feels scared to sleep in his room and seeks the safety of his parent. Josh tries to reassure him, telling him he's safe, and with that, the boy manages to fall asleep. Meanwhile, Rachel and Josh talk in the living room about how they feel in this new place. Between jokes, decoration plans, and a moment of intimacy, the night seems perfect until a loud crash shatters the calm. A car tire slams against the window, the result of an accident that just happened right curve in front of the house. The couple is in shock, unable to believe what just happened. The next day, Josh tries to get back to his work routine, but he's clearly distracted at the office. His co-workers chat about Erickson's promotion, now his new boss, and he barely manages to respond politely. Deep down, the image of the accident from the night before won't stop haunting him. Later, he picks up Rachel and Max, and during the ride, he starts talking again about the accident, about the young people who crashed and the luck they had to survive. Rachel avoids going into detail, but Josh is already showing signs of obsession. The family tries to adjust to the new house, but tensions grow. Josh finds Max playing in the yard, right in the same spot where the tire from the accident had landed, which unsettles Rachel. She insists they need to fix up the area and keep their son from playing there. Shortly after, while mowing the lawn, Josh sees strangers arriving at the crash site and placing flowers next to a makeshift cross. They turn out to be the victim's parent. The scene hits him so hard that instead of stepping back, he stays to watch and then walks closer to see who it was. He learns it was a young man named Kyle, recently graduated with a promising future. That discovery leaves a deep mark on him. That same night, they host a dinner with friends to celebrate the move. Everything goes well until Josh starts talking about the accident in a level of detail that makes the guests uncomfortable. He even brings up information about Kyle that he had read in the obituary, which surprises Rachel since she didn't know he had gotten so involved with the matter. The situation creates tension at the table, and once they're alone, Rachel confronts him. She complains that he talks about the accident as if it were some kind of spectacle instead of focusing on his family or his work. Josh tries to justify himself, saying he's just curious, but Rachel is convinced something strange is going on with him. As the days go by, Josh can't stop looking at the curve in front of the house. He notices the warning sign is covered by branches and decides to cut them with a chainsaw so it can be seen, convinced that might prevent future accidents. He sets himself up in front of the road as if waiting for something to happen. His obsession silently grows. Meanwhile, the family tries to distract themselves by spending a day at a fair. Max asks his dad to win him a teddy bear in a strength game, but Josh fails over and over, feeling humiliated until the game operator ends up giving Max the prize for his dad's effort. Instead of making him happy, the gesture leaves Josh thoughtful and frustrated. Back at home, Josh is grilling burgers in the yard when another loud crash alarms him. A new accident has just happened at the curve. He runs to the scene and becomes the first one there before the ambulance arrives. He finds a man badly injured, barely breathing. He tries to keep him alive until help arrives, but the driver dies right in front of him. Desperation consumes him, especially because he had arrived several minutes before the paramedic. To make things worse, the victim's phone rings and Josh, almost without thinking, slips it into his pocket. That night at home, he feels guilty for not being able to save the man, convinced that with proper training, he could have made the difference. That experience pushes him to go further. He plugs the deceased's phone into his computer, goes through photos and videos, and discovers details about his life. He even dares to attend the funeral pretending to have been his friend, where he speaks with the man's daughter. Rachel begins to notice his strange behavior, but Josh hides it as best he can. His obsession with saving lives turns into a routine. He signs up for a first aid course, practices CPR on a training dummy, and even tries to buy the mannequins used in class. He does all this behind his family's back, while neglecting his job more and more. At the office, Erickson calls him in for a private talk. He mentions he's received complaints from the team that they see him as distant and disengaged. He asks him to get more involved, spend time with them, and lift group's morale. Josh nods, but in reality, the only thing on his mind is the curve and the accident. At home, while doing laundry, Josh stares out the window at the road, as if waiting for another crash. Family tensions also rise. One night, Rachel discovers that Max has bald spots. When she asks him about it, the boy admits he has been pulling out his own hair, something that alarms both parents. They decide to take him to a child psychologist, who explains it could be his way of coping with stress and anxiety. Rachel immediately connects this to the accidents happening in front of the house and insists the best option is to move. Josh, on the other hand, refuses to accept that idea. He prefers staying home with Max in the afternoon, working remotely and solving the problem without leaving the house. Rachel starts to lose her patience, convinced that her husband's obsession is harming the whole family. Time goes by, and even though Josh tries to show himself as a good father, cooking, picking Max up from school, and sharing moments with him, in secret he continues practicing immersion emergency maneuvers. Rachel, trying to help her son, signs him up for taekwondo lessons along with a school friend. Josh is upset that he wasn't part of that decision, but he ends up taking Max to the class anyway. On the way home, an ambulance speeds past them. Josh feels a bad hunch, and when they reach the curve, they see another accident has just taken place. The fire and chaos immediately draw him in. He orders Max to stay in the car and rushes toward the scene. Firefighters are working frantically, police are controlling the area, and paramedics are trying to resuscitate the injured. Josh watches every detail, convinced the techniques they're using are the same ones he has practiced at home. A reporter approaches him for a short interview. He agrees, explaining that this isn't the first accident at that curve and that the sound had been like an explosion. While speaking, he suddenly remembers Max. He runs desperately back to the car, only to find his son gone. Terrified, he searches until he finds Max close to the accident, watching silently. Rachel arrives just then, furious, and takes the boy away, convinced Josh is losing control. After the latest accident, Rachel insists Josh must go to therapy. He reluctantly agrees and meets Peter, a psychologist who listens without judgment. Josh confesses that he feels if he had been home, he could have saved the man who died. He also admits his son ended up seeing things no child should see, and all of that torments him. Yet instead of finding relief, he leaves the session more convinced than ever that he must be ready for the next time. His obsession doesn't shrink, it grows stronger. As time passes, his work problems get worse. Erickson calls him in again. He explains that Josh's absent attitude and constant distractions have caused the company to lose an important client. He has no choice but to fire him. Josh tries to justify himself with personal problems, but the decision is final. He leaves the office frustrated, feeling like he's losing everything. Still, he doesn't tell Rachel. He hides truth and pretends everything is fine. At home, he tries to act like a model father. He plays with Max, helps him with homework, and tucks him in at night. Rachel, however, continues watching him with distrust. Their relationship grows colder by the day. Inside, Josh is consumed by the idea of being ready for the next accident. He even places objects on the road, like a trash bin, hoping to cause a situation that requires his intervention. He stays up late into the night, staring out the window at the curve, waiting for a crash that will allow him to rush out and help. Rachel, exhausted by the situation, keeps taking Max to his therapy session. There, they learn that for now, the boy doesn't show severe trauma symptoms. He isn't avoiding cars or showing exaggerated fear of fire, but Rachel remains convinced the house is the problem and insists moving is the best option. Meanwhile, Josh quietly sabotages attempts to sell it, inventing excuses to scare off potential buyers. Rachel finds out and explodes with rage. Not only has he been blocking the sale, but he also hid the fact that he lost his job. That becomes the breaking point. Rachel decides to pack up and leave with Max. Josh tries to stop her, begging her not to go. He tells her accidents will keep happening and ambulances take too long to arrive, so he must be the one to act first. Rachel, however, accuses him of wanting tragedies to happen just so he can feel like a hero. She sees him as dangerous, unable to put his family above his obsession. In the end, she leaves with Max, abandoning Josh alone in the house. Days later, Josh meets with a lawyer. He explains that Rachel has filed for divorce and is seeking to limit his time with Max to supervised visits only. The lawyer tells him that if he wants a chance at shared custody, the first step is to sell the house and move to a safer place, preferably near his son's school. Josh agrees, convinced this is the only way to win Max back. He starts fixing up the house, painting and preparing it for sale, though his mind is still torn between that responsibility and his obsession with the curve. When he finally gets to see Max, he makes the most of every second. They play together, laugh, and talk about what it would be like to live in two different homes. With a child's innocence, Max just wants to be with both parents, and even asks for a dog for when they live together again. Josh, promises he'll have one someday, but that promise only causes more arguments with Rachel, who is upset that he makes offers to their son without resolving the legal process first. She insists Josh can't provide the stability Max needs. Meanwhile, Josh's frustration deepens. One rainy night, he slips in the yard and ends up staring at the road, convinced that any small detail could cause an accident. The waiting consumes him. He no longer just observes. He takes steps to force the inevitable. He pours water onto the road to make it slippery, but no car loses control. So he decides to go further. With a chainsaw, he cuts down the warning sign at the curve, certain that this will trigger a crash. He sits by the window, exhausted, and waits for hours. Nothing happens. Eventually, fatigue takes over and he falls asleep. When he least expects it, a crash comes. A car loses control and smashes violently in front of his house. Josh rushes out immediately as if he had been training his whole life for this moment. Inside the wreck, he finds a woman trapped between twisted metal. Using all his strength, he struggles to open the door while a group of young people from a passing bus stop to help. They hand him tools, call emergency services, and watch as he fights to free the victim. After a tremendous effort, Josh manages to pull the woman out of the vehicle and begins performing the resuscitation techniques he had practiced so many times. The scene is chaotic. Josh is drenched in sweat, desperate to save. For several moments, it seems like everything is lost. The woman doesn't breathe, and he feels the same crushing frustration from previous accidents. But just when he's about to give up, the woman reacts and catches her breath. Relief floods him instantly. Josh breaks down in tears, this time out of pride. At last, he feels like he has become the hero he always wanted to be. The paramedics arrive and, seeing what he did, congratulate him for his quick act. The young people who witness the scene also look at him with admiration. For Josh, that moment feels like the culmination of his entire obsession. He has proven he could save someone.